Hi, this is Chad for Foundation Digital Media. I'm talking about the assignment 2, which is the Kung Fu Panda still recreation. So the assignment is to reproduce a still from, do you remember those two, if you've seen Kung Fu Panda, there's like those 2D dream sequences going on at the beginning of the film. And if you've seen Nickelodeon's Kung Fu Panda Legends of Awesomeness, the stills that I have, there's about 10 of them, are taken from those two, the film and the TV show. And the idea is to recreate it exactly as you can in Illustrator. So the image should fill horizontally 11 by 8.5. That means you open up an 8.5 by 11, make sure it's horizontal, so it's 11 wide, 8.5 tall. And then you place your image in there. It shouldn't stretch to fill the whole 8.5 height. So I'm going to do a demo to show you what's happening here, but I'm just going through this, the process. So what you'll do is you will first go into Blackboard and download the assignment sheet, which we're looking at now. Read over it. Let me know if you have any questions about it. The next thing is to also download the Kung Fu Panda KFP supporting files. That's a zipped file or a stuffed or compressed. And if you're on a Mac or PC, you'll need to expand it or unstuff it or whatever you call it, depending on the operating system you're working on, so you can access those images. And I'd like you to make a plan of how you're going to separate those images like in a sketchbook. So let me zoom in here. This is one of the images, and you can see just looking at it, there are layers definitely. There's a black background. There's some dark yellow candles behind everything. Then there's a layer of light yellow candles in front of that. Then in front of that are our figures. And then in front of that are these three candles. So it really has some depth to it. So we're going to use layers in Illustrator to do this. And if you could think of layers as a stack of transparencies, you remember those overhead projectors that we had in grade school that, you know, they put an overhead and then they write on the overhead. Think of layers as a stack of transparencies. And you're going to be okay. That kind of makes sense, where you can write on one and then hide others but still put them back. That's kind of what it's all about. So this is going to be the very top image. This will be the candles, the front candles, and this is really rough. It doesn't even have to be this good when you do your sketch, but I do want you to do a sketch and show me. So candles are figures, middle candles, back candles, and the black background. So that's a good layer breakdown that I'd like to see for whatever image you choose, okay? And do that in your sketchbook and show it to me before you proceed. And then you'll open up the 8.5 by 11. Remember, it's going to be horizontal. And then use File Place to put your image in place, okay? Resize it so it fits proportionally. Don't distort your image. Don't stretch it out so it fits the 11 by 8.5. It'll fit in length, but not, I mean, your image will fit in width, but not in height. That might be a little confusing, and I'll demonstrate. Then I'd like you to collect colors, add layers, and then begin tracing. Let me show you how we're going to do that. Let's make a new, I'm going to have to go open this up. So here's the Kung Fu Panda project sheet that we just looked at. And then these are the images. Let me just quickly thumb through those real quick for you. Okay, so 1, 2, okay. And I think I've removed, this one shouldn't be part of the thing. I feel it's a little too simple. Okay, so that's it. So here we go. We're gonna in Adobe Illustrator, we'll make a new file, and I'm going to choose print, and then up comes letter, and that's what I want. I want a letter. It's an 8.5 by 11. I'm going to change my measurements to inches, and then instead of just going for this, I'm going to choose this horizontal format, and then at the bottom I'm going to click create. So here it is. Then I'll choose file place. Let me just grab the right one here. Yeah, that's it. And I'm just gonna move it on my desktop so I can find it easily. Okay, so go file place. And I'm gonna put my image in here. I'll go to desktop, and then I'll go find my image. Here it is. So what happens is when you get an image, it loads up your cursor like this. And what you do in this particular assignment, instead of just clicking, you'll click and drag. And you're going to be telling Illustrator exactly how big you want the image, and it should fill the entire width of your 8.5 by 11. And yes, you'll have some page left over at the bottom down here. So I'm going to move this down so it fits that 8.5 by 11 really well. And I'm doing Control 0 so I can see the whole image on the page. Okay, excellent. So the next thing to do here is to collect colors. So I'm not going to collect all of them, but I'll collect a few here. I'm going to make a rectangle. So notice my rectangle is a white rectangle with a black stroke. Okay. And then what I'm going to do, it does have a fill. It's not a no fill. It has a fill, so I can drag it. If it had a no fill, I wouldn't be able to drag it from the middle. So be aware of that. So I'm going to click with my selection tool and drag it over to the right. And before I let go, I'm going to add in Shift and Alt on a PC or Option on a Mac. So you can see what my cursor does. It has a little double arrow on it. That means I'm making a copy of it. So I'll release my mouse first, then release the keys, and then there's my copy. Now before I do anything else, I'm going to, on a PC, I'm going to choose Control D, or on a Mac, Command D, to duplicate what I just did, that move across, and I'll just hit it over and over until I get a bunch of squares or rectangles. And then I'm going to select them all. So I make a big selection by dragging across. And then I'm going to do the same thing to this just to make another row. So Shift and Alt on a PC or Option on a Mac to make a new row. Now, here's a process where I'm going to begin gathering colors. So I'm going to kind of separate these into layers. I'm going to be really careful about collecting my colors. And I'm going to use the eyedropper tool. And I'll go between eyedropper and holding down Control on a PC or Command on a Mac to go to the selection tool. So here's how it works. I'm going to hold down, I'm going to use the selection tool, holding down Control or Command to select my first square. I'm going to release that key, so now I'm back in the eyedropper, and I'll go select the color from the background. Okay, then I'm going to go back to that Control or Command key and select the next rectangle. Release it to go to the eyedropper, and I'm going to grab this. It's the very dark yellow on the candles, and then I'll select the next one and select among the darker candles. I'm going to select, it's kind of a lighter. See how dark this yellow is and how light this one is? Select that. Then I'm going to go select the outline used on these candles, which is this color. Okay, So that's going to be all the colors I need for the dark yellow candles and the dark background. Now this little blur around the wicks, I'm going to do that later on as another layer. Okay, let's check this out. Yeah, so these flames go on top of the candles, so that's how I'm going to handle that. So I'm going to delete this just to keep it organized. So this is my background layer colors. And this helps me, I'm going to remove that so it helps me know that this is a layer and this is going to be a new layer. So now I'm going to begin selecting from this light candles. So I'll grab that light color right there. And then if there's any darker color, I'll grab that. And then I'm going to zoom in and grab this little outline color. Okay, and then I'll remove this next one because that's all the colors for that light candle layer. Okay, then I'll go in and start taking colors for Master Shifu. So I'll grab his some fur color. Probably some darker colors, and there, I think that's a unique color, and then a couple of yellows. Like there's a dark yellow, and there's a light yellow, and then his eyes are actually a little different color, like from that. And then I think there might be another one for his. Like this little outline here. Boom. Okay, so that's Shifu. I'm going to delete this one so I can keep things kind of organized. So now I said I wasn't going to do all of them, so this is all I'm going to do, but that's how you proceed with the rest of the layers. I'm going to bring up swatches, and here's my swatches. It's like a rainbow of colors. That's what comes over first. But I'm not going to use any of these, so I'm going to delete them first. So to delete them, I'm going to go to this flyout window and choose Select All Unused. And then I'm going to choose the trash can to delete everything. Okay, so now I'm going to begin adding these into my swatches. So here's my background layer. And in the swatches, I'm going to choose this little folder, which is New Color Group. I'll click that. Here's what it says. I'm not going to rename it because the name is not going to show up. Just click OK, and then they get loaded in. Here's my next group of colors for the light candles. Okay, and then here's my colors for Master Shifu, and I'll OK that. Okay, so that's how that rolls, and I'll let you continue doing that. We can delete the colors now, and now I have my background colors, my light background and dark candle, my light candle, and Shifu, and I could separate to the turtle. I can't remember his name. I really wish I could. And then the top three candles. So that's how it should look. Now I'm going to put these swatches away for a brief bit and go to my layers. Now let me talk about layers for a minute. Layers are fantastic. We're going to add some layers first of all by clicking this little page with a folded up corner. That's the new layer icon. And I think I had 5 layers altogether. This little eyeball lets that layer be visible or not. So right now my art is on the layer 1. You can see the icon here. And also when I select it, it's blue. See the blue selection? And then if I go in here, it's not purple or magenta or purple or green or red, it's blue. So that also helps me identify color, is the highlight and also the selection color. And I can hide this if I want to, hide layers. This next little window here is the locking mechanism. So with that lock, I can't move it, I can't select it, I can't do anything, and that's a nice tool to have. Again, I mentioned this is the selection color. This little arrow is a twist down actually, and it tells you all of the objects that you've created in that layer. So if I were to make another object in here. Now I did delete all of my, oops, it's locked. I did delete all my rectangles, but they would be all different sublayers in here. So right now I have a white rectangle in that layer 5. And you can see it coming up as a sublayer. And then this is the little display of what's on that layer. This is the name. I'm going to double click on it and rename it the art layer. This empty area lets you double click and go to layer options. So here you can, easy way to rename. You can also pick a new highlight color here. Like if I don't like the blue, I might try the cyan, right? So I OK that, and now it's cyan. That's what this empty area is. This I call a meatball. They call it a target, but if you click on it, it will select everything in that layer that is not locked. So you can lock individual things, but this meatball will select everything in the layer. And then lastly, the last little space over here is, let me just show you what that is. So if I'm going to select like that white rectangle, you can see it selected in my art, and this little highlight here shows that that is selected. Or on this one, this is like a kind of a big folder having sublayers. It shows that something is selected on that layer. If I want to move that, I don't have to move layers. I don't have to redraw it. I can just drag this up to move it to layer 3, and it's still on top of. See how that's on top of the art. Or 4 or 5, and you can see it change colors. But this is how you can move layers. You don't have to delete it and redraw it. You just drag it around. So that's layers explained. So I'm going to move into tracing with my next video. So stay tuned and come back.